In 539 BC, a Persian king made a decision that would echo through history for over 2,500 years. With a single decree, Cyrus the Great didn't just conquer Babylon, he liberated an entire people and earned a title no other non-Jewish ruler has ever held. But was this legendary act of mercy really what it seemed? Today we're uncovering the truth behind one of history's most remarkable stories of liberation. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating intersections of ancient history and religious narrative. The story of Cyrus the Great and the Jewish exile isn't just about politics or conquest. It's about how a Persian emperor became the only non-Jew in history to be called a Messiah in the Hebrew Bible. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what happened in ancient Babylon, but why this 2,500-year-old story still matters today. We'll examine the historical evidence, explore the religious significance, and uncover what modern archaeology tells us about this legendary liberation. To understand the magnitude of what Cyrus accomplished, we need to go back to 587 BC. Picture this. Jerusalem, the spiritual heart of the Jewish people, lies in ruins. The magnificent Temple of Solomon, the center of Jewish worship, has been destroyed. Thousands of Jews have been forcibly relocated to Babylon, beginning what history calls the Babylonian captivity. Jewish tradition often refers to the exile as 70 years, though this number is symbolic. Depending on whether one counts from the first deportations, 605 BC, or the destruction of the temple, 586 BC, until the return or the temple's rebuilding, 516 BC, the actual duration varies. This sets the stage for one of history's most dramatic reversals of fortune. Now here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia marched on Babylon. But according to the Nabonidus Chronicle, Cyrus entered Babylon without fighting, and temple rituals continued. However, earlier that year during the Battle of Opis, his army inflicted heavy casualties. So while the entry into the city was peaceful, the wider campaign involved bloodshed. But Cyrus did something that was revolutionary for his time. Instead of imposing Persian culture and religion on his conquered territories, he actively promoted religious tolerance and cultural restoration. The famous Cyrus Cylinder, discovered in 1879 and now housed in the British Museum, describes how he returned the images of the gods to their places and gathered all their inhabitants and returned to them their dwellings. This wasn't just good politics, it was an exceptionally innovative approach to empire building. Here's the moment that changed everything. In his first year as ruler of Babylon, Cyrus issued what became known as the Edict of Cyrus. According to the book of Ezra, this decree didn't just allow the Jewish people to return home. It also ordered the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, funded the project, and returned the sacred vessels that Nebuchadnezzar had looted. While the first-century historian Josephus supports this account, modern historians add crucial context. They note that no contemporary Persian version of this specific edict survives, and many see the biblical account as reflecting a broader imperial policy of allowing all exiled peoples to return, not just the Jews. Even so, the idea of a Persian emperor actively supporting the restoration of Jewish religious life was a remarkable feature of his new statecraft. While supporting local cults was not entirely new, applying this policy with such consistency across a vast empire was a revolutionary step in ancient governance. Now here's where this story becomes truly extraordinary. The book of Isaiah refers to Cyrus as Messiah, literally meaning anointed one. This makes him the only non-Jewish figure in the Hebrew Bible to receive this title. The text reads, "Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whom he has taken by his right hand to subdue nations before him." From a Jewish perspective, Cyrus wasn't just a political liberator, he was seen as an instrument of divine will. The prophet Isaiah, writing during or shortly after the exile, portrayed Cyrus as chosen by God to restore the Jewish people to their homeland and rebuild their temple. This religious interpretation has had lasting impact. Even today, Cyrus is remembered in Jewish tradition as a righteous Gentile who fulfilled God's plan for the Jewish people. But here's where things get interesting from a historical perspective. Modern scholars debate whether the biblical account reflects exactly what happened. Some historians, like Lester Grebb, argue that there may not have been a specific decree, but rather a general policy allowing exiles to return to their homelands. Ezra lists around 42,000 returnees, but archaeological evidence suggests the return to Jerusalem was gradual and smaller in scale. Grab describes it as more of a trickle over decades, meaning the biblical figure may be symbolic or idealized. Mary Joan Wynne Leith notes that while the biblical decree might be authentic, we should understand it in the context of Persian imperial policy. Cyrus, like other rulers, was trying to gain support from strategically important populations, particularly those near Egypt, which he planned to conquer. One of the most important pieces of evidence that sheds light on this policy is the famous Cyrus Cylinder. The Cyrus Cylinder is sometimes described in modern times as a charter of human rights, but historians stress this is anachronistic. It was a royal inscription in the Mesopotamian tradition of kings declaring reforms. While symbolic of tolerance, it was not a human rights document in the modern sense. Neil MacGregor, former director of the British Museum, offers a more nuanced view. It was the first attempt we know about running a society, a state with different nationalities and faiths, a new kind of statecraft. While it wasn't intended as a human rights document, it represented something genuinely innovative in how empires could be governed. The Cylinder's emphasis on religious tolerance and cultural restoration wasn't just propaganda. It was a practical policy that helped Cyrus maintain control over his vast, diverse empire. Here's what makes this story truly remarkable. Its impact didn't end in ancient times. The narrative of Cyrus as liberator has inspired leaders and movements throughout history. Thomas Jefferson owned 2 copies of Xenophon's Cyropedia, and the story influenced the founding fathers of America. In modern Iran, despite political changes, Cyrus remains a powerful symbol. Thousands of Iranians still gather annually at his tomb in Pasargadae, chanting, "Iran is our country, Cyrus is our father." The story transcends religious and cultural boundaries, representing ideals of tolerance and liberation that resonate across civilizations. A replica of the cylinder has been displayed at UN headquarters as a cultural gift, and it's often cited as a symbol of tolerance, though scholars debate its precise historical meaning. So, what can we conclude about Cyrus the Great and the liberation of the Jews? The historical evidence suggests that while the biblical account may contain elements of religious interpretation, the core events likely happened. Cyrus did allow exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands. He did support the rebuilding of temples and the restoration of cultural practices. Whether this was motivated by genuine tolerance, shrewd politics, or divine inspiration, or perhaps all three, the impact was profoundly transformative. Cyrus created a new model of empire based on cultural and religious pluralism, rather than forced assimilation. The story reminds us that even in the ancient world, leaders could choose cooperation over oppression, restoration over destruction. In our modern world of cultural tensions and religious conflicts, perhaps there's still something to learn from a Persian king who chose to be remembered as a liberator rather than just a conqueror. What do you think? Was Cyrus genuinely tolerant, or was this just brilliant political strategy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this historical story interesting, make sure to watch our playlist on the Achaemenid Empire, which you can see on the screen right now. And if you're interested in more stories where history and religion intersect, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got some incredible content coming up that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.